So they're prosecuting Trump again, and at this time it's over. I'm pretty sure this case is about him inflating the value of some of the buildings he owned so he could get a loan and that he got from Wall Street, and then he paid back that loan. And isn't that, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm here with the Due Dissidence boys. Go ahead. Is that the correct, is that what this is about?
Honestly, there has been so much going on with the whole genocide thing. I have not been delving closely into the Trump soap opera.
So here's his lawyer. So this is the judge. Now, this judge, if you thought Judge Ito in the OJ trial was a whore for fame, this guy, by the way, isn't it? He's supposed to be retired. I think they have mandatory. You're supposed to retire at 70. Somehow he gets to be doing this. I think he's 75. And he's a joke of a judge, right? So he couldn't be more partisan. Right. All the judges that they're getting are the worst judges you could possibly. All the judges that are in Donald Trump's cases are the most corrupted, most partisan, most on the surface. It doesn't take much light to see through these people, and he's another one of them. And he's being very. And for some reason, Trump isn't going to get a jury trial on this. I don't know why that is, but this judge is being unbelievably unfair. And here's his lawyer, and here's what she has to say.
You have a right to hire a lawyer who can stand up and say something when they see something wrong. But I was told to sit down today. I was yelled at, and I've had a judge who is unhinged slamming a table. Let me be very clear. I don't tolerate that in my life. I'm not going to tolerate it here. And you know what? You shouldn't either.
So that's Alina Hanna, and she's standing up saying that this judge is unhinged. That'll be the headline. And and here's the guy who's unhinged. And he is. I've seen video. I wish I had the video. I saw a video on Twitter of him doing like this when they had the camera in court. He's mugging for the camera in court, like the biggest jackass you've ever seen in your life. So she's got a little bit more to say. Here she is.
My client speak the truth, and the judge can tell me to sit down. And he can try and shorten my client's testimony, but it is loud and clear. They've got nothing. They've got nothing but their politics. She's got nothing but her Soros backing, which we discovered recently.
Now, she's talking about, I think, Letitia James, which is the prosecutor.
Right.
And she's saying that she's got Soros backing that they just found out. And that the judge isn't allowing Donald Trump to actually testify. And when Donald Trump wants to give an answer, the judge yells at him and says, shorten your answer. Stop talking. Stuff like that.
Right. This isn't a political rally, right? That was one of the quotes, I think, that came out of the reporting. Yeah.
So that's the former president of the United States. Do you think that that judge would talk to any former he wouldn't talk to George Bush like that?
No, this is New York. It's hard to imagine Donald Trump getting a fair hearing in a New York courtroom as the venue. That having been said, and now I realize what you're talking about. Yeah, did Donald Trump inflate the values of his assets? Did he play with the books? I'd be shocked if he didn't.
But everybody does that. That's what the Young Turks did.
That's what I was just going to say.
So that's what the Young Turks did when they were trying to get that $20 million from Jeffrey Katzenberg and the Clinton found. They inflated their numbers, and they pretended they were giving away memberships to their premium. Like, hey, if you're in college, we'll give you a membership. We'll get this. So they were inflating their numbers every which way. And then they have
books look right. Okay, yeah.
And then they have had 5.1 million subscribers. And then that didn't move for about, 5 years straight. They had 5.1 million subscribers because that was also inflated. Those are also bots. Right. And so what Donald Trump did is what every businessman does. Right. It's a game. And you don't think Wall Street knows that's what the game is being played, that Donald Trump is going to do. But for whatever reason, Wall Street decided to give him the money anyway. He got the money. He paid it back. So this is the only time I've seen a criminal trial where there isn't an injured party. There's no injured party here, correct?
Yeah,
yes.
seems to be, yes.
Go ahead, Kay.
No, I was just going to say, that quote that came out of the courtroom where he said, this isn't a political rally. You have to shorten your answers. If you believe that the prosecution is political in nature, right, then calling that out is part of your defense, is it not?
That's correct. So you're saying that the prosecution of Donald Trump is 100% political, which it is. This is what they said Donald Trump was going to do to his political opponents, and this is exactly what Joe Biden, the Democrats, and the establishment on both sides of the aisle is doing to their political opponents. This is because the donor class hates Donald Trump, and I don't like Donald Trump. I didn't vote for Donald Trump, and you know that. But I'm
You're a right winger, Jimmy.
Even a dumb guy like me is smart enough to see what the game that's being played, and this is a horrible precedent. Cornel West said that he thought Donald Trump was a fascist because he criminalizes his political opponents. Well, what is this? Cornel West pretends he doesn't see this, doesn't know what it is, but luckily I'm not as dumb as a Harvard professor, and I can see exactly what this is. This is criminalizing the opponents of the political class, of the establishment, of the donor class. And if Cornel West was able to ever be a threat to the establishment, they would do the exact goddamn thing to him. But he's never going to be a threat to the establishment. He's welcomed with open arms into the establishment. Okay, so let's get back to what she has to say. And by the way, we'll see you the day after Thanksgiving in Burbank, California at Flappers Comedy Club. We're doing stand-up comedy. Steph will be there. Kurt will be there. I'll be there.
I am sick and tired of seeing it. Pay attention, America. Pay attention. Because when you're in court one of these days and you don't have a lawyer that has a microphone and you don't have a lawyer that can go on TV and you've got judges gagging them, what are you going to do? We need to fix this country. And we need to stop what is happening in this courtroom. President Trump is worth a lot more, and she wasn't ready for it. She doesn't understand it. And before she rushed to judgment, she should have thought about attacking somebody with over 50 years of real estate expertise who changed single-handedly the skyline of New York City. She picked the wrong person, and her politics will fail for it.
So she's talking about the prosecutor, Letitia James. Now, she goes on to say this.
Let's be clear about why the judge said that. The judge doesn't like when President Trump explains what actually happened because it's not good for his narrative. This is a judge who clearly has an issue. If you've seen his behavior with me, you've seen his behavior with the president today. He has a clear issue with facts that are not good for the case because he already predetermined, and I want everyone to understand, yes, we do not have a jury. Yes, we do not have a lot of things that we should because they brought it under Section 6312. But this judge decided this case in liability before we walked up those stairs. I didn't have a shot. So right now we're sitting here doing a whole dance, and the only thing they want are facts that are bad for Trump. That's why he's silencing him. That's why he's telling him short answers, and that's why he's clearly enraged. His face is red. He came in hot, and he doesn't know how to handle him.
So now it says this is a civil fraud trial, but I thought this was a criminal case. Which is why it's important. If it was just a civil trial, it was not important really, but I thought this was a criminal case. So I don't know if that's the correct caption or not, but I want to tell you the kind of judges that they get to preside over Donald Trump's. So the last civil case where they determined he somebody sexually harassed some woman 30 years ago, even though she couldn't say what date it happened or what week it happened or what even month it happened, which is then how can you defend yourself against a crime they can't say when it happened? But the judge they got was the same judge that put the Exxon, the guy who beat Exxon in what's that guy's name?
What's his
so
name?
I had him on the show. The guy was being prosecuted because he got a $2 or $3 billion settlement against Exxon for their polluting they did in South America. And so what did they do? They found corrupt judges to imprison that guy, and they did. They imprisoned that guy, and then they put him on house arrest, and so he finally won his case. But for years,
Donziger, that's who you're talking about, right? Stephen Donziger, right?
Yeah. Stephen Donziger, that's exactly right. So guess who was the judge who did that to Stephen Donziger, which lefties are supposed to be outraged about, and they were outraged about it. That's the same judge they got to go preside over Donald Trump's civil case, the last one. And nobody makes that. Anderson Cooper's never going to tell you that. Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes are never going to tell you that. Even Sean Hannity's never going to tell you that, right? So, all right, let's get back to this.
Tucker, mate.
So, this is a civil trial, but they can take his business away over this. So that's why this is important. Okay, so it's not a criminal trial, but it is a civil trial where they can take his business away. Here we go.
If my client was worried about people's penalties on him, and that's supposed to silence his right to free speech and his right to take a stand and explain, then I wouldn't want to represent him. My client's done nothing wrong. His answer should be full, and if they try and silence him, the record will reflect that, and we'll deal with it on appeal. Yes. Anything else?
Why did the president do this last year?
So everything is done strategically. I can't get into that.
So here's what Simon Ateba, who we had on the show earlier this week, says. Based on everything that has transpired in the New York court today, it seems the judge, Arthur F. Engoron, has already made up his mind on Trump. Liable, liable, liable. Everything now just seems like a formality. I believe the only option now would be an appeal. So that guy's a joke. That guy's a criminal himself. That guy's a liar. That guy's a bought piece of it. And he's corrupt as they come to the hilt. And he doesn't care about justice. He doesn't care about the laws. He cares about a political prosecution and he wants celebrity out of it. That's what, look at that stupid smirk on his face. And so that's Simon Ateba, not an African American, but an African journalist who covers the White House. And so that's his reading of it. I bet he's doing that because he's a white supremacist. Let me do one more here. The Constitutional Conservative says, breaking news, Trump's attorney, Alina Hanna, slams corrupt judge Engoron and the disgraceful Attorney General, Letitia James, in a press conference saying, this is third world stuff. You know why? Because this is third world stuff, and this should worry everybody. It should worry, if no matter who stands up to the establishment, this is what they're going to do to them. This is what the billionaire class does to the people who oppose the billionaire class. They did it in Pakistan. They did it in Brazil. They did it to Lula. They put Lula in prison, and they thought the center-right guy was going to win, but then the far-right guy, Bolsonaro, won, and they're like, oh, God, we screwed up. So then they let Lula out of prison because they know he's the only one who could beat Bolsonaro, and now they're in the process of criminalizing Bolsonaro and making sure he can never run for president. They're doing to Bolsonaro what they're doing to Trump here. So this is the new game that the billionaire class does, and they are the ones who run the country, and they run the whole world, and they don't care about the United States. They don't care if we have civil war in this country. In fact, if we have a civil war, that is beneficial for the oligarchy, because chaos favors the oligarchy, because then people want the government to put draconian measures in place, fascist measures in place, to keep them protected from their neighbor, who they're being told is a Nazi and a white supremacist. Number two, they say Hanna called out Letitia James directly and said that before James came into office, she called the Trump administration too male and too pale. How could that be okay with anybody? Trump's attorney went on to say that the prosecution doesn't have a case, saying their star witness, Michael Cohen, folded, lied, and crumbled. Come on. This is the guy, Michael Cohen, the biggest liar in the world. He's a bigger liar than Trump. Hanna also dropped a bombshell, saying that the Attorney General James has nothing but her Soros backing, which we discovered lately. So according to her, the Attorney General got financial backing from George Soros. I'm not here to hear what President Trump has to say. That's what the judge said. The judge in this case, the former president of the United States, he said, I'm not here to hear what President Trump has to say. Here's one more from Simon Ateba. He says,
you mean the defendant?
The defendant. He doesn't want to hear what the defendant has to say. Great point, Ross. Trump blasts Judge Engoron and New York State attorney in court over the judge's summary judgment that called him a fraud. He said, he called me a fraud and he didn't know anything about me, Trump said of Engoron, adding, it's a terrible thing you've done. You know nothing about me. You believe this political hack back there, and this is unfortunate, Trump told Engoron, referring to Letitia James. Note, in case you forgot, Judge Arthur F. Engoron ruled even before the trial that Mr. Trump and other defendants were liable of fraud and that their annual financial statements were filled with examples of such misconduct. This even before the trial started. This is a banana republic. This is third world stuff. And if you think they're only going to do it to Trump, they're going to do it to anybody who stands up. If Bernie Sanders actually had a nutsack and integrity, and they would have did it to him. If Cornel West actually was a threat to the establishment, they would do it to him. If anybody running for president, if I ran for president and they would do it to me. They'll do it to anybody. This is the game that's being played. They're doing it to stop Cop City right now. So the people who are protesting the expansion of the police state inside the United States, they are criminalizing them right now using the same same RICO statute, using the same grand jury that they're using to prosecute Trump. And everybody's pretending like they don't see the game that's being played, including Cornel West when he came on my show, which is why we can't have nice things in this country. I'll give you one more, and then I'll throw it to our... This is another one from Simon Ateba. He says, breaking, brutal in New York. In case you're not paying attention, Donald Trump has taken the stand in New York and does not seem to be a very friendly court. For instance, Judge Engoron told Trump, you can attack me, you can do whatever you want, but answer the question. He also told him to simply answer questions and not give speeches. Please just answer the question, no speeches, he told Trump. That was a yes or no question. Please answer yes or no when you receive such a question, the judge told Trump. Judge Engoron even told Trump's attorney to sit down, just sit down. We are here to hear him answer questions, Judge Engoron said. Trump, however, said, this is a very, very, very unfair trial, and I hope the public is watching it. Based on what is going on, I doubt Trump would win in this court, just saying. That's a reporter direct from Africa, not an African American. That's a black guy, but I'm guessing you're going to call him a white supremacist. So let me bring in the boys from Due Dissidence. What do you say about this? And shouldn't this be chilling to every justice-loving American?
Well, this is what is so dangerous about the fact that the liberal class, which always had milquetoast politics, but saw their politics as aligned with ideals like, I may not agree with what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it, right? The Chicago 7 were their heroes, these people like Abby Hoffman who stood up for speech and rights, even for people we don't agree with, right? The defending the right of the Nazis to march in Skokie. This was an ideal of the liberal class. This was not a radical left ideal. This was an ideal. Over time, they have been convinced, and I would argue brainwashed through corporate media and through the politicians, the Democrats generally, that they follow, that their enemy is not the state, it's other Americans. And that has left us with absolutely no one with any real power in institutions to defend the rights of the accused, to defend rights to freedom of speech. Quite the opposite, where in this topsy-turvy world where the liberals seem more hostile to those rights than people that we would consider conservatives. And that is extremely dangerous because for whatever reason, they seem to lack the imagination that all of the doors that they're opening are doors that their political enemies can now walk through when they take power. You have loosened all the protections for yourself. How are you going to say, well, no, that's out of bounds when you've been advocating for it in prosecuting this president for years? And it's not that I think Donald Trump is innocent of everything he's accused of. It's just that I have seen for too many years, including with Trump when he was on the right side of these people. If you're rich, there are no consequences. You only face consequences if you get on the wrong side of the liberal class. How many times did that guy go bankrupt, burn contractors, walk away from debts? They never gave a shit. They gave him a new blank checkbook, reorganized his loans. It was fine. They're coming after him because he crossed them. If he just said what they wanted him to say, he wouldn't be in court right now.
Yeah, and there's a real feeling of finality to this because you mentioned how what precedent does this set? You know, these feel like apocalyptic times. I'm sure I'm not alone in feeling that way. And it seems like they're playing this out. They are all in on never losing another election again to the likes of Trump, right? And then that doesn't just mean Trump. That means, you know, a Ramaswamy type down the line. They just have to delegitimize Trump and everything resembling him because they cannot risk turning over the keys to him or anyone like him ever again. And the stakes are incredibly high. We are on the road to hell right now under Joe Biden. That's a certainty. Like, we know that for a fact. They have World War III cooking on two burners now. China's the kind of slow simmer that's been on for years, so you can count that if you want to count that as number 3. But we know where this government is taking us. We know where the Biden White House and their team is taking us. Now, is Trump the road to hell? Probably. But with Biden, it's a definite. It's a certainty. We know where we're heading. And so closing off the democratic process in this way, and yes, rigging an election in this way, suggests that the stakes are extraordinarily high for the establishment, and they know it, and they are counting on never losing again. This doesn't feel like it's, chapter 6 in a 12-chapter book. This feels like the end game has really arrived.
I mean, the fact that people who consider them, I've had people say to me about this, honest to God, when I tell them how crazy this is that they're prosecuting their political opponents. Grown-up, normal people with kids will look at me in the eye and say, yeah, but Jimmy, Trump actually broke laws. And
it's really unbelievable.
As if this is about the rule of law, and we have to stand by our values. That's not what this is about. Every president in my lifetime is a war criminal, for real war criminal. And how can you say that we have to stand up for the rule of law with Donald Trump when George Bush and Dick Cheney walked the earth free men?
Right.
They ordered a torture program, and Barack Obama admitted that they did. We tortured some folks. Yeah, we ordered a torture. So war crimes on purpose, a worldwide torture program. By the way, we still have Guantanamo Bay open. We're world's biggest torturers. We're the world's biggest terrorists. The United States is. And we're going after Donald Trump for a payment to a stripper. We're going after him for inflating the property value of his businesses to get a loan that he actually paid back. So there isn't an injured party here. That's why it's crazy that there's this even lawsuit. And the media will not report it correctly. I don't even think Fox News is reporting this correctly. I don't watch Fox News, but if they were reporting it correctly, I'm sure I would have seen one of those clips. Have you seen anything from Fox News reporting this correctly? They got rid of the only honest broker over at Fox News, which was Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson, they go, no, they fired him because he was rich. No, that's why they hired him to say that stuff about immigrants. The reason they fired Tucker Carlson was because Tucker Carlson started to tell the truth about the military-industrial complex, the empire of America, imperialism. He told the truth about Syria. He told the truth about Ukraine. And then he brought on Bobby Kennedy to tell the truth about big pharma and vaccines and COVID, and that was it for him. So anything to cap this? By the way, I'll see you the day after Thanksgiving in Burbank at Flappers Comedy Club. Go to
Jimmy Dore.com. It's not just that
JimmyDore.com.
the media tells you what to think, it's that they tell you what to think about and how to think about it, right? I mean, like I was just saying, how high the stakes are for humanity right now. And you have these network TV stations where the A block is Donald Trump inflated his assets and gave a porn star $100,000 worth of hush money, and then the B block is genocide in Gaza. The C block is mass slaughter in Ukraine. I mean, it just really perverts how people think and what they think about. How can you possibly think this is an important story right now? How can anyone possibly give a fuck about $100,000 to a porn star or inflating the value of your building in Manhattan? I mean, it's insanity. It's suicidal insanity.
This is part of why, not to put a misplaced note of positivity here, but I feel like what's happening in Israel is making the wheels come off of the narrative. It's just a little too much cognitive dissonance. And as anybody who's gone on a political journey from being a voting blue Democrat to being a post-duopoly leftist knows, once you start pulling at the threads of these narratives, they unravel very quickly. So I am hopeful that this is the beginning of it being much more difficult for them to push a lot of these narratives. Although, to keep it dark, I don't believe they're going to let Donald Trump run for president.
They're not.
I do not believe they will let that man in the White House.
No, the Republican Party will kick him off their ballot. They'll find a reason not to let him run as a Republican, and then it'll be too late for him to get on the ballot as an independent. That's what I think is coming. Hey, we're doing stand-up comedy in Covina, California, Burbank, California, the day after Thanksgiving, Oxnard, California, Venice, California, Palmdale, California. Lots of places in the Southland. Omaha, Nebraska. We're going to be in Omaha. We're going to be in Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington. Plus, we're going to be in Boston, the Wilbur Theater in Boston. See you there.